Here's something that no one actually has the balls to tell you. Your brand sucks. Your brand is terrible. And the reason why it's terrible is, well, you have very bad positioning. The biggest issue you're going to come across when it comes to building a clothing brand is that you don't know how to actually position yourself as a premium service. That's why you don't get any customers. And I'm not even going to bullshit, not going to waste your time. I'm going to tell you exactly how to fix this shit positioning because I have two examples here, both within the same follower range count, but both different brands doing exceptionally well. And by the way, this video is not to bash at anyone, but to actually just release the cold hard facts and to show you what it looks like. So on the left here, we have a brand called Heart Loss, right? This is a relatively new brand. They have around 384 followers. They're following 2 people, so not that many followers. However, based off, their highlights and based off the sales they've been generating, you can see that this brand looks trustworthy, right? You would buy from this brand regardless of the followers because in their marketing, in their content, it just looks genuine. But how? How can a brand that only has 300 followers look genuine? I mean, would you buy from someone who has like 250 followers? Probably not. But what is this brand doing so well that's allowing them to position themselves as premium and be on par with some of these brands that are doing 6 figures a month? Well, the first thing to consider is how they've structured their page. So the Instagram page is super important, and these little things you don't pay attention to is the exact reason why your brand is terrible, right? So if you look at their highlights, for example, and I'll even go on the page myself just to express this. If you go on their page, the first thing you see right here is highlights. Yes, there's a little bit of mystery. They don't clarify on what it is, but as you can see, if you go through, you see a bunch of different images of the clothes, right? High quality pictures, high quality images showing people actually wearing the product. So it's real. Right, it's real. They show an influencer here as another person who wear the piece of clothing. Social proof. Almost 100,000 followers, and this woman is wearing their clothes. So they have social proof. Now, in your situation, you might not have an influencer that has 100,000 followers, but it's not about that. It's about how you position the people you currently have, and I'll show you. So if you actually go through their page, as you can see, they have about what? They have about 14 posts, right? The first post, obviously, they're gonna have a lot more. The first post obviously was way more intentional, as you can see. Look at this. This looks like a flipping movie. In your case, that might not be the case, right? You may not have the resources or the access to actually position your brand like this. But if you look through the page, everything makes sense. Every image is clean. Every image is high quality. And this isn't something hard to do. Yes, they have, for example, a studio where they can take their pictures on a background. But for example, you can go outside and take a picture of your clothes on the floor, but just make sure it's a good picture. The iPhone 13 is the phone I'm rocking, right? Is a good enough camera to be able to take a high quality photo shot, right? And I don't want to hear anyone talking about excuses about, oh, I don't have Photoshop, oh, I can't tweak things. Look, there's literally a free site called Photopea that allows you to edit images for completely free. So you can do touch-ups on any image on free sites. But as you can see here, right, they have a bunch of reels, a bunch of videos, a bunch of content, right, that they rep. And as you can see, there's actually people in their comments. So there's social proof, there's proof of community. Look at this, good images, clean images. Like, this is non-negotiable. A good description, a good people in the comments. They don't need to have hundreds and thousands of people in there. But look at this. Look at the amount of people that's in here. And how do you do this? By positioning yourself as premium. Now, another thing, let's go to their website. The only thing I'll probably talk about is just conversion-wise, the website is probably a pain in the ass, right? On the phone, it's not that bad, right? As you can see, look at this. £250 for a tracksuit. How are they able to charge so much for this? Because they position their brand as premium, right? But look, if I was to go through the site and look at some things, right? Look at maybe this hoodie and stuff, right? I can see extra small, add to cart, boom. Now, in my humble opinion, pictures like this are way too big for a desktop site, right? You have to scroll through and look at this. But really and truly, your site is only meant to capture the sale. It's not meant for conversion. I'll show you a brand that does this quite well. If you go to Trico, for example, there's no flashy pictures, there's no flashy images, no big images. Look, you literally click on the site, you refresh the page, you're met with the product, right? And then down here, they have images of the product and what it looks like, along with, fast shipping, easy returns, product info, making it super simple for people to buy. So there's no buyer friction when it comes to the site, right? All these different things position the brand as premium. You need to understand that it's not just about the clothes. It's about how the person can actually acquire the clothes. And if you look at this brand, for example, they've just used an iPhone to record something like this. It's a simple skit. Bro, this takes 30 minutes to actually script this out and come to a plan and edit. Get this edited in CapCut. Super easy. Now, I don't need to go into a psychological debate on how they structure their images. You have a brain cell, so you can do this yourself. But let's look at the other brand, for example, right? So this person actually follows my TikTok page, but they have 12 followers, 9 likes, and there's so many things wrong with this page, right? Now, if we used to look at the TikTok page of Heart Loss, yes, do they have that many followers? No. But they position themselves as completely premium. Now, granted, with better content pieces and with better recording, they're able to shift and get the right people, like the right audience. Obviously, I can tell this brand probably doesn't have a content system because it looks like they're just kind of posting anything, right? However, on their Instagram, they position themselves way better and way more premium than just the average brand. And let's do a comparison to the other brand. With this, it's called Nord Clothing. They have about 12 followers, 9 likes, right? And then when you look at this page, at first glance, you're gonna think only one thing. This is a fucking terrible ass brand, right? No disrespect, but really and truly, this is the truth. They got an AI ass image here, like the Nord clothing. This guy walking to a bunch of people, like what's this Nord clothing dark streetwear? It just doesn't make sense. There's no logo representing the idea of the brand. Like, who is it speaking to? Is it speaking to the target audience? Is it speaking to your ICP? Like, who exactly is this logo speaking to, right? Now, another thing as well, another thing to code, the Nord clothing code name isn't a problem, but then this just sounds like a retailer brand, right? It doesn't actually sound like a clothing brand that's niche. And another thing you need to consider when you're positioning your product as premium, or when you're positioning your brand, your name is supposed to be incredibly niche to your selected people who are going to buy. You are not supposed to make super cool clothing global. That's just irrelevant, right? That does not speak to your audience. Irregardless of whatever you want the name to be, you need a name that is just relevant to your audience. That's it, right? But if we actually look at the post here, if we look at the post, like, nothing makes sense. They're stuck in a 200 view jail with good reason. But let's see exactly why. Now, if you watch this video right now, someone's gonna say how to buy, but I can almost guarantee you this is probably the founder himself, because you cannot tell me you're sitting down here looking at this saying, oh, I want to buy this. They haven't even shown a product in one of these videos. Not a single product. If you look up here, they've screen recorded or screenshotted every image and then just put them in a video. In silence of on the concrete, we find our voice. I can just tell this is just ChatGPT, right? There's no effort put into this. And if this is what it looks like for me, imagine your customers, right? If you're positioning your brand, if you're just being lazy and you can't sit down and ideate and think and let thoughts come into your head in order to craft this, it doesn't make sense. Another thing as well to consider, for example, is even if you look at the images, okay, cool, we have some image here, right? We can see the products, right, for your slideshow. But if we look at the bio, it just says hashtag creator insights. Who the hell are we targeting? Like, no wonder why we're getting one like. One thing as well to consider when you want to position your brand, photos about the product should remain the absolute most important thing. You're not supposed to be here posting images or videos about any AI nonsense or AI slop. Everything about your Instagram or TikTok page is only and exclusively meant just for the brand and for the product, and showing the customer the transformation from with them without the product, with the product. That's it. That's the whole transformation. They're not supposed to ideate and think and like be able to, visualize like, oh, maybe this. No. When they see the product on your video, it should instantly occur to them that I want this cloth or I don't want this cloth. That's it. It should be a yes or no answer. So when you start positioning yourself like this is a bad example. But when you position yourself like this, right, this brand doesn't have 1,000 or 10,000 followers, but they're positioning themselves so well. Now, are they getting sales? That's another question. Obviously, they need to speak to their audience's desire. And obviously, if you do have that problem, well, you're probably having a volume problem or a content system problem, or not targeting the right people. And lucky for you, that's exactly what we fix at Yannick Consulting. So if you're a brand within the 4-figure mark and you're trying to really scale, or if you're barely getting any sales, then 100% DM me on Instagram so you can see what we do and how we fix that. When it even comes to your website, right? Because the thing is, when it comes to your website, like I said, your website only serves one purpose. It should be just super simple. Don't get me wrong. Even with the site, right? Even with this, there's a few problems with this, right? It doesn't really show the full buyer utility. Don't get me wrong. Like, these images are nice, but we don't want nice images. We want images that are useful. This is better on an Instagram post, not on the site. And the picture process of every single site you run should literally just follow like this. To make it simple and not complicated, your first image should be the product on a white background, and it should be the real product. You get the hoodie, you get the t-shirt, you take it, put the product on the floor, right? You put the product on the floor, get a transparent image, slap it on a white background, make sure it's clean. That's the first image. The second image should now be the product on the actual model. So the customer should actually stand there and be able to see, oh cool, this is what it looked like on the body. Then the next image should be the product again, but on a flat lay with the actual real background. The customer is not looking just at the product, they're looking at how the product will look like in different settings. So you get the product on a white background, you get the product on a model, you get the product in a real setting, and then you finally add the most useful thing that will prevent you guys getting like, chargebacks and returns, a size guide. This is a non-negotiable. You just grab it from your manufacturer, ask them to give you a size guide. The reason why a size guide is so important is because so many people will stop asking you that, oh, what's the size? How does this fit? fit? How does this fit? And this prevents you from getting so many returns and refunds because people will buy the right size. Now, in order to properly position your brand, the first thing you need to do is to define your ICP. You need to be exactly clear on who you're targeting. A lot of brands make brands and then start to just push out their content and hope anyone relates to them. It's not, this brand or clothing brand space is not about you. It's got nothing to do with you. It's got everything to do with other people. You have to understand that when you're making a clothing brand, there is a level of morality you're incorporating within the business, right? It's not just about you. Yeah, like, yes, you want to make a brand, you want to be cool, but if you're in here for the money, yes, you will make money, but if you're only here for the money, you're not going to make any fucking money, right? You need to be able to define who your TA is. Who the hell is your target audience? Who the hell are these people? And then you need to cater your brand for them. You need to cater your content. Your content needs to be catered for them. Your site needs to be catered for them. The experience, the customer experience needs to be catered for them. Every single thing needs to be catered to the customer. Because at the end of the day, who the fuck is putting money in your pocket? Not you, your customer. Then, once you've defined your ICP, in order to properly position yourself, you need to communicate with your target audience or communicate with anyone you have right now. The reason why is because you need to let people know that there's drastic change within the brand, and if they don't join, they'll be left behind. Once you communicate, you want to go straight into rebranding. And this is exactly when you start to change or audit your logo, audit your name, audit your bio, audit your positioning, just like I showed you. And once you've rebranded, that's when you begin. You begin with the content process. You begin with the ideating, the scripting, the posting the content, recording the content, all these different things. Now, you might ask me, how the hell do I define my ICP? And I'll show you an example of what we use for our clients. Okay, so we have an ICP workbook that we use for our clients, and anytime they answer this, they're able to define their client, right? They're able to define their target audience. And in here, there's a few questions that they're asked, and in order to strip everything down. The reason why we do this is because in order to get proper clarification on the market, you need to be able to identify who exactly you're targeting. And that way, when you identify the person you're targeting, what you can do is that you can start to create bubbles around them, right? And every time they interact with the world, and anytime they interact with your content, they pop a bubble. So this bubble maybe is content, and the way you position the content is in the exact way they need. For example, if I knew every single thing about you, and then I knew that I had a clothing brand, well, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna position content in front of you exactly when you have the most amount of money and exactly when you need clothes the most, right? So if I know you go to parties on Saturdays, what I'll do is that on a Thursday, I'll market the idea of the product to you, and then I'll reference that and I'll connect that to the party on Saturday. So, for example, would you like to wear this tracksuit looking the best out of that party on Saturday? You're most likely going to say yes. Obviously, I need to reposition it in the way that repositioned, but the whole idea is you need to be able to define exactly who you're targeting, then work from there. Do not make a brand, then start selling to. Just start understanding your audience, then start selling to people. In order to reposition your brand, it's not that complicated. Don't overcomplicate this process. Don't start sitting down like trying to find out 60 reasons. This video is literally all you need. You need to define your ICP, then you need to make everything around your ICP. That's pretty much it. That's how you position yourself as premium.